Isaiah 58, verses 1 through 12. Shout it out loud, do not hold back. Raise your voice like the trumpet. Declare to my people your rebellion, and to the house of Jacob your sins. For day after day they seek me out. They seem eager to know my ways, as if they were a nation that does what is right, and has not forsaken the commandment of the Lord. They ask me for your decision, and seem eager for God to come near them. Why have we fasted, they say, and you have not seen it? Why have we humbled ourselves, and you have not noticed? Yet on the day of your fasting, you do as you please, and exploit all your workers. Your fasting ends in quarreling, and strife, and striking each other with wicked fists. You cannot fast as you do today, and expect your voice to be heard on high. Is this the kind of fast I have chosen? Only a day for a man to humble himself? It is only for bowing one's head like a reed, and for lying on a sackcloth and ashes. Is that what you call a fast? A day acceptance to the Lord? Is not this the kind of fasting I have chosen? To loose the chains of injustice and untie the cords of yoke. To set the opposed free and break every yoke. Is it not to share your food with the hungry and provide the poor, wander with shelter? When you see them naked, clothe them, and not to turn away from your own flesh and blood. Then your light will break forth like the dawn, and your healing will quickly appear. Then your righteousness will go before you, and the glory of the Lord will be your rear guard. Then you will call, and the Lord will answer. You will cry for help, and he will say, Here I am. If you do away with the yoke of oppression, with the pointing finger and the malicious talk, and if you spend yourself in behalf of the hungry, and satisfy the need of the opposed, then your light will rise in the darkness, and your night will become like the noonday. The Lord will guide you always. He will satisfy your need in a sun-scorched land, and will strengthen your frame like a well-watered garden, like a spring whose water never fails. Your people will rebuild the ancient ruins, and will rise up the age-old foundation, and you will be called the repairers of the broken walls, restorer of streets with dwelling. Thanks be to the word of the Lord.
Thanks be to God. Our gospel reading continues from the Beatitudes. It's part of the Sermon on the Mount. You are the salt of the earth. But if the salt loses its saltiness, how can it be made salty again? It is no longer good for anything except to be thrown out and trampled by men. You are the light of the world. A city on a hill cannot be hidden. Neither do people light a lamp and put it under a bowl. Instead, they put it on a stand, and it gives light to everyone in the house. In the same way, let your light shine before men, that they may see your good deeds and praise your Father in heaven. Do not think that I have come to abolish the law or the prophets. I have not come to abolish them, but to fulfill them. I tell you the truth, until the heaven and earth disappear, not the smallest letter, not the least stroke of a pen will by any means disappear from the law until everything is accomplished. Anyone who breaks one of the least of these commandments and teaches others to do the same will be called least in the kingdom of heaven. But whoever practices and teaches these commands will be called great in the kingdom of heaven. For I tell you that unless your righteousness surpasses that of the Pharisees and the teachers of the law, you will certainly not enter the kingdom of heaven. The Gospel of our Lord. Thanks be to God. But I often, we say that as an affirmation, but I often often want to make it a question. Thanks be to God. Really? I mean, Jesus continues the Sermon on the Mount with metaphors of salt and light. And then talks about he's not here to abolish the law, but to fulfill it. And he proceeds to warn us that we must keep the law even better than those self-righteous scribes and Pharisees if we ever plan to make it into the kingdom of heaven. That's heavy stuff. It's not really something we really want to talk about, is it? It's rather demanding. The metaphors of salt and light sound good, even encouraging. But what does it all mean? How are we salt and light? How can we be more righteous than the most self-righteous with whom Jesus debates and criticizes elsewhere? Yet here seems to, in this passage, actually seems to affirm and applaud. Perhaps it might be helpful to say that in Judaism, that salt was a symbol of the covenant. We tend to think of the commandments as requiring obedience to each of the Old Testament, 613 Old Testament laws. Remember all of those? Yes. We neglect to see that God's covenant is multifaceted. Its promise, and it's the narrative story that we hear, and its commandments. It's really about relationship. Bound together is the promises that God made, the actions that God has taken, the commands that God voices, and the love and care that God continually offers each and every one of us, all the time. It's God doing God's part, and we'll see that the scribes and the Pharisees are doing their part by strict adherence to the rules and regulations throughout the gospel. But even in the Old Testament, God is expressing displeasure because their whole focus is on themselves. They fast for appearances and for what they can gain. It's not about relationship to them. They've forgotten those in need. In Isaiah 58, God says, you serve your own self-interest. Just going through the ritual motions doesn't lead to holy living. There's a way of being religious that makes a mockery out of religion. God isn't interested in our empty rituals. God is interested in our intentions, our changed behavior, and our concerns for other people. And that, my friends, coincides with the message that Jesus teaches and what his issues are with those religious leaders. When Jesus describes us as salt, he's not talking about what we do. It's about who we are. In our culture, we confuse who we are with what we do. We tend to think that our profession or our jobs define us. But God sees us in another way. We are God's children, created and empowered by God's love. We are created as dust, but we are also created in the image and in the character of God. We were not created to be alone, but rather to be part of a community and as part of God's realm. We don't need to try to be salt. How can you be salt? You can't create it yourself. There's no course or how-to books on being salt. We aren't commanded to be salt. The value of salt is in its application for others. During the children's time, we talked about the various uses of salt. It's used for purification, for washing, bleaching, or dyeing materials. It was used for sacrifices. It actually was used as monetary exchanges. It was used to avoid contamination or spoilage. It's a preservative, as was pointed out. Our bodies require salt to keep our bodies functioning right. And we all know that there's many uses for it as adding seasoning or adding flavor to our food. Salt crystals that we saw earlier can give flavor to food. But does that work to just add that to your food? It needs to be dissolved first. When it dissolves, it may seem like it disappears, but it doesn't cease to exist because it's still giving flavor to the other elements that surround it. All those things that comes in contact. When you boil the noodles or rice and you put salt in it, it adds the flavor to it. So it hasn't gone away. Sadhu is quoted as saying, if we are not melted in fire and spirit, if we do not sacrifice ourselves completely, then we cannot pass on to even a single soul the blissful experience of the spiritual life. As others say, we exist for others. We enrich and flavor by being part of a community. Light isn't for our benefit either. It breaks through the darkness and illuminates everything with its warmth and with its energy, encouraging life and growth. Light guides us through life, revealing potential dangers that can harm us or hinder us. We often want some form of light when we get up in the middle of the night. Otherwise, we might crash into the wall or stub our toe. Or in my case, at the apartment I live in, you might trip over the sunken living room. Lighthouses offered opportunities for ships to see rocks or other dangers that were nearby. A flashlight can reveal cracks in the foundation of our homes or deterioration of the hoses, belts, or tires on our vehicles. Light reflected in a microscope or on x-rays indicates where disease or broken places hinder life. Shedding light usually means providing information to draw out the truth. It exposes flaws, corruption, greed, deception, and lies, so that we can be guided by the truth to lead our lives with integrity. Something we don't often hear about these days. Charles James Cook talks about how pastoral ministry has focused on affirming people regardless of their circumstances. And he points out that that's not what Jesus did exclusively, because Jesus affirmed a person's dignity while at the same time challenging people's behaviors. Examples that he gives are, the first one, Jesus accepted the rich young man but challenged him to give away all of his possessions. And the second one he indicates is Jesus accepted a woman caught in adultery, but he instructed her to sin no more. Jesus encourages followers to bring light to the dark and broken world, because it's all around us, my friends. The light of the gospel draws people to its warmth and its truth. It draws out the best in all of us. Archbishop William Temple is known for saying, "The church is the only organization on earth that exists for those who are not its members." Let me read that again. The church is the only organization on earth that exists for those who are not its own members. There was a time that I really believed that. But I've also encountered many churches in which it's more about keeping the members happy or bringing in people so that we can finance things rather than caring for the people. rather troubling because what we are called to do, and what many of you do, is care for others. We are called to follow Jesus into the dark places of this world, the places we'd rather not go, the places that may not be on the map, places that may scare us, to bear the light. But we can't bear the light if we ourselves fail to confront our own darkness. That's something I've had to learn many times. I had a friend who confronted me that I was arrogant. And I was, and probably still am. It's not comfortable hearing the truth about ourselves. And it's not easy. But as Charles Cook goes on to say, we cannot bring the light of Christ to others if we are unaware of where the light needs to shine in our own hearts. Righteousness isn't about doing everything right. It's about right relationships with God and with others. It's about caring for others, which the scribes and the Pharisees and the people that Isaiah is talking to have failed to do. We are called to be open and honest instead of hiding in the dark. We are called to offer others warmth and encouragement instead of being cold or discouraging. We are called to tap into the source of energy that comes from God so that we and those around us can bring God's realm to so many people who are trapped in darkness and despair. We are salt. We are light. That's what God created us to be, and how God can use us to make God's kingdom here on earth a reality for others. Let us live into what God created us to be, now and always. In Jesus' name. Went back to an old bulletin, so at this time we're going to go ahead and take up the offering, because God has been so good to all of us and has provided us with resources that we can share and help others throughout the world. Let us be in that attitude of remembering and giving good things.